Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I'm delighted to be joined here by Matthew Hurley from the GAA Statsman podcast to run through, well, I suppose the last club review show really of the year, I suppose you could say, or of the 2022-2023 club season. And we obviously seen our All-Ireland winners at senior level, Ballyhale Shamrocks getting the job done against Dunloy, and Kilmacud Crokes getting the win against Whitey Graham's Glen, of course, as well, by 2 points. Two magnificent wins there for either sides. We will be running through some pre-season results and maybe some talking points around the GAA in regards to pre-season competitions, and might even touch on the Sigerson Cup maybe briefly as well, because I haven't really had too much of a chance to mention it on the channel in the last couple of weeks. We'll obviously be discussing the controversy as well around Kilmacud Crokes, because that certainly has been circling around social media in regards to the Crokes win over Whitey Graham's Glen, and we'll certainly get into the nitty-gritty around that as well. But first of all, Matthew, how is life with yourself? And I mean, a very eventful weekend, and as we were saying off air there, we have our first controversy of the year.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Aaron. Yeah, I suppose the finals today, the hurling was good quality up until a certain point. Ballyhale ended up, winning it quite easily. But then the second game, it probably wasn't the best quality of game. I think you mentioned in your match reaction there after the match. And it probably wasn't, but it definitely had its whole load of drama and a whole load of moments as well. That Danny Talon goal was a brilliant finish in itself. Kilmacud having loads of wide. You were thinking, have they thrown the game away? And then that stuff at the end, as soon as Morris Brosnan put up that post on Twitter, you knew the GAA are going to look into this. And it's going to be tasty over the next few weeks. We'll talk you off air there. We don't know what's going to happen. The league is going to start next week. And by the time we're getting into the league, then we have this final if it's rescheduled. And the whole calendar is going to be an absolute mess after this. So, it should be interesting to see how the GAA deal with this particular situation.
Yeah, Dylan says here, how are you? I'm doing good, Dylan. Hope all is well with yourself. Cheers for tuning in, and we'll start with that controversy right at the end, because I don't think it can be ignored. Obviously, it's circling all over social media at the minute, and we have an image here from Morris Brosnan. So this was right at full time of the game between Kilmacud Crokes and Whitey Graham's Glen, and to refresh people's mind, this was obviously the complete, the last attack in the game. You can see, I think it might be Emma Bradley maybe standing over that, about to send the ball in. And what's actually ended up after happening is Kilmacud Crokes, in the first image, right at the bottom of your screen, you can see 16 players there. As we know, there should be 15 players obviously on the pitch, because that's obviously the way the sport is played. And then in the image on top, you can see Paul Mannion still on the screen as well. So what actually happened was Paul Mannion and Darren Mullen were both subbed off. Both didn't leave the field in the end. So Kilmacud Crokes defending that attack with an extra man. Now, you could say Paul Mannion's not involved, and fair enough, he isn't, but he's still on the pitch. And Darren Mullen, clearly, as you see, we'll get the image on the screen again. You can see at the bottom of the screen with the circle highlighted there. Morris Brosnan posted this up on Twitter, so shout out to him. You can clearly see that's obstructing the view there. And you might say, well, he wasn't involved with the ball that was played in, but if he's not there, then that creates space for someone else to go into. So all of a sudden, a lot of controversy. And what happens next? Does it have to be replayed, or what do you think?
The thing is, though, we were talking off air about it, and you were saying there was 2 incidents about this that you recalled, and they didn't go to a replay afterwards. What I was thinking of was a professional sport, soccer and all that. Celtic went through in the Champions League because of an ineligible player or something like that. But another situation which caught my eye as well, looking at this, was probably the Meath Loud incident of 2010. We're going back to this again. There was arguments the game should have been replayed then, and the GAA didn't bat an eyelid, and they just let Meath win the game. I honestly think this situation is nearly the same. Loud and Meath was obviously more controversial than this. It was a blatant foul by Joe Sheridan that time. And this incident, Paul Mannion has nothing to do with it at all. Darren Mullen, it's not really controversial, but there is an argument there. Not for Conor Glass's chance, that was a brilliant save by Conor first, but the very last chance of the game, I'm not sure who kicked the ball from Whitey Graham's Glen. It's escaped from my memory, but there's an argument there that if when he's taking the shot with 15 men on the field, there could have been more space to hit it from. He could have had a better chance for a goal there, which Watty Grangeland needed to win the game and eventually to topple Kilmacud Crokes. So there's a big argument over this. Like, will the GAA just leave it there? Will they make it a replay? I don't know what's going to happen, but they have to, more than anything, Aaron, they have to decide the decision by tomorrow evening at least, because the GAA calendar has gone on way too long now, and there's the league starting next week. We don't want more build up in the calendar and all that. Like, we're talking off air as well about the impact of the county teams, the relevant county teams involved with the club sides as well. I don't think it'll be a big issue for Dublin, because I think Dublin will still go to Division 2 pretty simply indeed. But with Derry, therefore, it's escaped from my mind again what Derry's first game of the league is next week. But they're down Conor Glass, Emmett Bradley for next week if this goes to replay. So that's not right either. When Derry were planning with the two lads to play next week in the league, and this is a crucial season for Derry, because like, they're favourites along with Dublin to go to Division 2. And if Conor Glass and Emmett Bradley don't play next week, that opens the door for maybe a Cork, a Kildare or Meath to, seize advantage of that. And to be honest, more than I'd like Cork to get promoted and all that, but in all fairness, that's wrong as well, because Derry were expecting the two guys to play next week. They were planning with the two lads. And what makes it even more kind of controversial as well, they're Derry's best two midfielders in Bradley and Glass. And to be without them in the first week of the league, that's going to be a tough one to take for Rory Gallagher then. I know Malachy O'Rourke came out and said it to Cara O'Kane after the game that it's not the Glen way, it's not his way to complain about this. And we're talking off air as well about the fact that it's not really up to him, it's up to the chairperson. You would think Danny Talon, who took the free, is probably going to get involved in this as well. He's going to have his say. So it's a big mess. It's a messy situation. But the main thing for me is, and I hope this happens, the GAA come up with a decision tomorrow. No later than that.
Yeah, that's what Tom says here. Could this game be replayed, or will GAA put it under the carpet? Whitey Grames should have a replay on the 5th of February, says Northern Ireland Railways train spotter. Dylan says Kerry was playing Limerick today in the Munster League. Yeah, we'll get on to that. I think they'll leave it because of the league coming up. Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very tough answer. Like, I mean, where do you slot the game in? I mean, as I was saying to you off air as well, like, I think if the game was level after extra time, it would have went to a replay. So I presume the GAA had some sort of scenario built up in their heads where the game was going to be played. And I know obviously TG Cahir are shown, I think, 2 games on Sunday. Maybe one of those games would have been deferred coverage in the end. And Kilmacud Crokes, Watty Grames Glen would have got the slot on the Sunday. Dublin are playing Kildare at 5 p.m. on Saturday next week. So it definitely wouldn't have been on Saturday. But yeah, like I think the fair decision is to play a replay, but there's a lot of question, if buts and maybe sort of in regards to this. And I think from a Kilmacud Crokes point of view, they'll probably look at it and think, well, like, yeah, it's such a tough one. I mean, I don't really know what. I mean, the right thing really should be to play the game again, but Crokes might say, well, the referees didn't catch us, so it's a very hard one, isn't it?
It is. I suppose if it was just Paul Mannion on the field, there wouldn't have been controversy at all, because you could clearly see from Mark Brosnan's image on Twitter, he has no influence on the play whatsoever. But the controversy comes with Darragh Mullen being in the vote, and he's right in the middle of the goal, so that doesn't look good. I honestly think, do I think Glen deserve a win after today or a draw after today's performance? I don't think so, personally, because I think they threw the game away with about 2 or 3 goal chances, particularly towards the end of the game. There was one with Stevie O'Hara, there was one with Conor Glass, and deservedly, Kilmacud Crokes should get their hands or keep their hands on the All-Ireland title. But again, we go back to the argument, like, if Darragh Mullen isn't there, what would have happened? And we don't know what is going to happen, because we don't have them kind of resources here with us. So, it's a very tough call for the GAA to make. I honestly think, look at the game, Kilmacud deserved to win it. And Glenn, to be honest with you, I don't think would have had qualms about this unless they seen the image after the game. If they didn't see the image, I'll put it this way, they would have no qualms about the result because they would have thrown it away. But now they've seen the image, this is going to get messy. It's going to be a really messy situation. Hopefully they come up with a decision tomorrow, but ultimately, I think Kilmacud deserve to win the game. There shouldn't be any qualms about it. But with Darren Mullen at front and centre of the photo, there's going to be controversy in the next few days over it.
Yeah, like, and if he wasn't there, maybe the same thing would have happened. Like, you just don't know. Like, it's like rarely do you see these late goals go in, anyways. But then again, the same thing happened to Kilmacud Crokes a year previously, where they did concede a late goal. You just don't know. Like, obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, as they say, and unfortunately, we just don't know what would have happened. But yeah, like the two times previously that this has happened, from what I remember anyway, was Charlie Redmond in Dublin versus Tyrone in 1995. He did leave the pitch eventually, but he stayed on for, I think, 10 minutes after being sent off. So that wasn't really got to do with substitutes as such. And then I think there was another scenario as well involving a Cork minor team, I think, where a player didn't leave the pitch after being sent off. So it kind of is a hard one to know. Like, in the past, they haven't done anything about it. But as you said there, like, it's very hard for the GAA to ignore this. Like, I think in 95, and I think the other incident that took place in the early 2000s, like the GAA could probably get away with it more back then because there was no social media, there was no outrage. Whereas now, like they can't get away from it. So I think Monday morning, 9 a.m., they need to come up with a decision, in my opinion.
They have to, yeah. There's no other arguments over that, and the decision has to be announced at the latest tomorrow evening. Absolutely, like there's no other way around it. If you announce it on Tuesday or Wednesday, then you have the league coming up at the weekend, and then the whole situation is going belly up. Like, when you look at next Sunday's fixtures, for example, I looked on TG Car there, and I looked on GAA Go as well. There's bound to be 3 fixtures on TG Car next Sunday. So, like, it's going to be a huge fixture pile up if the GAA takes action over this. I don't know what they're going to do. We suggested something off air as well. I think the hurling league is it's specifically only hurling league for the 3rd week of the Alliance League season, but that's 3 weeks away. Like the players are nearly their minds in the game will nearly be gone by then. It's too long a gap. So, like, there's a lot of decisions for the GAA to make, but the key thing is make it by tomorrow evening. If you make it by Tuesday or Wednesday, it's too late. And when you look at the games next weekend, there's a huge pile-up of TV deals and stuff like that. There's BBC Northern Ireland showing a game. There's RTE showing a game. TG Car overall are showing 4 games next weekend. And if this game is going to be replayed, there could be 5. So this is going to be a big decision for the GAA to make. They have to make it by tomorrow. There's no other solution here.
Yeah, like maybe the 6th of February could be a solution, the bank holiday Monday. Again, like maybe it's not ideal for supporters to kind of be traveling down on bank holidays and all the rest, but maybe that might be a solution. But another thing I was thinking as well is, you think back to when Meath won that Leinster title in 2010, and it's mad when you speak to a lot of Meath supporters nowadays, because when you speak to them about 2010, they nearly don't want to speak about it, and they're the ones who won the Leinster title. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be an asterisk, behind Meath's or beside Meath's last Leinster title win until they go and win another one. And you look at Kilmacud Crokes here, it's not as bad as that in terms of, they didn't win with a controversial goal or anything like that, but they did win illegally, you could say. And there's always going to be a bit of an asterisk beside this All-Ireland for Kilmacud Crokes until they go and win another one or the game is replayed.
There's an argument about that, all right, but to compare, that's like comparing apples and oranges at the same time. I know what you're saying, it is illegal what Kilmacud did, literally. But at the end of the day, when you look at the performance, like I looked at the full game today, and I thought Kilmacud were the much better team. I thought Glen threw it away towards the end of it. I think Kilmacud pushed up with the kickouts expertly. I think their subs they brought on, especially Cian O'Connor, made a huge influence on the game. Louth and Meath, Louth deserved to win it. It's as simple as that. Like, even when they got that goal towards the end, Like, they missed so many chances. Loud even had a guy sent off, and Loud were still a much better team than Meath. And then Meath get a fluky goal and win the game. And there was huge injustice for this. But for the incident today, I don't think it was injustice at all. It's just ifs, buts, and maybes. Like what would have happened if Darragh Mullen would have been off the field. But overall, before you take the subs into consideration in that moment in additional time, Kilmacud were the much better team today. There was no arguments about that. I honestly, from a neutral, I wanted Glen to win it because of Kilmacud, the controversy with Shane Walsh and all that. And the fact, well, they are a Dublin team, and I'd rather the Derry team win over the Dublin team. But even I'm thinking Kilmacud deserved to win it. There's no arguments about that. Whereas the Louth and Meath game, Louth deserved to win it. So I don't think there'll be as much uproar thinking about it now as back in 2010. There could still be uproar because of the images and all that. But when you put it on, when you go over the tapes, Kilmacud were a much better team and deserve to win.
Yeah, like it is mad, all right, and it will be interesting to see obviously what the GAA comes up with as well. Like, you kind of wonder how it happened as well. Like, I do remember seeing Darragh Mullen come off the pitch. I think that might have been after the free, so I don't understand like what happened. Like, how did he, like, was there must have been some breakdown in communication, or whether they done it on purpose, I really, really don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. But Dylan does say here, Crokes deserved the win because Glen fumbled the ball a lot like Derry did against Galway, but it's very controversial at the moment. I would just give a red card like punishment to Mullins for not going off the field. Yeah, maybe you could give out an individual punishment there, but look for Glen, like they're going to want to push it for a replay as much as possible because they did lose the game. So I mean, they want a chance to replay it and win it. But I suppose looking at the game, then obviously, I mean, as you were saying there, like it wasn't the best spectacle in the world, to be honest. Like, it wasn't the greatest game of Gaelic football. It was quite slow in the first half. Obviously, Glen got that early goal from Danny Talon, and Kilmacud Crokes sort of gradually work their way back into it. But as you said, Glen had some big opportunities to win this game and I suppose fluffed their lines in the end.
They did, and it's weird because Kilmacud were fluffing their lines in the first half, and you were thinking, are they going to make the same mistakes as last season? Like, I actually put up an image on Twitter. I don't usually do this at halftime now, but the shot selection for Kilmacud Crokes, when you're looking for the Glen point of view, for the left-hand side, Kilmacud missed all their chances from that side. It was incredible, like the Craig Diaz chance, Paul Mannion hitting the post, Shane Walsh dropping a free shot, and you're thinking, do Kilmacud have the bottle here? Are they going to bottle this All-Ireland final? And Glen seemed to be kicking them left, right, and centre over the bar. But when it came to the ball, when it came to the last few minutes, Glen fumbled it. Like, the Stevie O'Hara chance was a big one. He could have played it across to Alex Doherty to get a tap in, but instead he went himself. He could have even fisted it over the bar. I think there was an incident I was watching the other night, the McGrath Cup final, Cork and Limerick. Cork had the chance to go 6 points up with a goal, 4 points up with a point, but John O'Rourke had the presence of mind just to fist it over the bar. That's maybe what Stevie O'Hara should have done, fisted it over, maybe make it a level game, and then go into the last few minutes. But as it turned out, Shane Walsh scored that last free, and then Glen were chasing it after that. They weren't lucky, granted that Conor Glass chance. Unbelievable save by Conor First. Like, when you look at it on the replay, look at it from behind the goal, it was an outstanding save, tipped along the post. And then that last chance as well, which went wide, but you could forgive him for that because that wasn't actually in the rectangle towards the end of it. And yeah, Kilmacud won the game. And really, when you look at the stats and subs, actually, Kilmacud made 5 substitutions, Glen made 2. And that's probably the difference between the two squads in many ways. Like, Kilmacud could afford to bring off Paul Mannion and bring on the likes of Cian O'Connor. They have outstanding players on the bench. They have the likes of Tom Box on the bench, Shane Horn, who's an awfully senior. That's incredible. And those were the difference in the end for Kilmacud Crokes. But honestly, I thought the guy that made the difference in the defence, particularly for them, was Theo Clancy. I thought he was superb, like cleaning up ball, like going in front of his man and all that. Like, Danny Talon seemed to get the better of him in the first half with that dummy, brilliant finish, by the way. But Theo Clancy seemed to suss him up in the second half. and that was a big difference in the game. I think one of his turnovers actually resulted in the Cian O'Connor point, which was crucial in what way the game went. So, yeah, I think he had an outstanding game. Kilmacud had an outstanding second half. But honestly, I think Glenn, when you look at the goal chances, when you look at the chances to just tap it over, fist it over, Glenn kind of blew it.
Yeah, like I think neither team played to their best, to be honest. I don't think, and as you said there with Kilmacud Crokes, I mean, I think in total, maybe out of 18, 19 scoring chances, like their conversion rate must have been terrible, to be honest with you, because in the first half, like I don't know what was going on. Like Walsh dropping that one short was so uncharacteristic, to be honest with you. Mannion hitting the post, like you could see Mannion missing a couple of the opening chances, and you could probably put down to rustiness. He's coming back off a bit of a long-term injury. There's probably going to be it's going to take him a bit of time to sort of get up to grips with the game and with the speed of the game, in fairness. But yeah, like they were just shooting from ridiculous angles, and their composure was quite poor. Like, what do you think? Was it nerves, do you think? And given everything that's sort of been built on Kilmacud Crokes, like you think back to last year losing that final, this year, like from day one, they've been a lot of people's favourites. They get Shane Walsh, and they've had this favourites tagged for so long. So what do you think? Was it nerves, or what do you reckon?
It probably was nerves considering what happened last year. Like I think who's talking, I think Darren Mullen actually mentioned it on the interview. And what I think it was either Robbie Brennan or Darren Mullen mentioned it on TG Carr afterwards, that the Kilcrew game kind of played in their minds last year. Like it was just heartbreaking the way they lost it. And on another day, Kilmacud could have easily won that game. Honestly, like it had to be nerves. Like Paul Mannion's even. You talk about Shane Walsh's uncharacteristic misses. Paul Mannion, I think, missed 3 chances in the first half. Maybe it was him coming back from injury, and maybe, he wasn't up to match sharpness. I don't know. But Shane Walsh, there wasn't really an excuse. So I don't know how he missed those gilt-edged chances. Craig Diaz, I think, had 4 shots in the first half overall. He only converted 1, which wasn't good at all. Like he's usually very accurate overall in Kilmacud's campaign. But as I mentioned there, the subs that came on actually made a huge difference. Cian O'Connor kicking that point towards the end there. Dan O'Brien kicked one of his shots. Shane Cunningham, Darren Mullen were 2 forwards. They weren't the glitz and the glamour like Mannion or Shane Walsh or Shane Horn with inter-county standards. But 2 of them kind of dragged Kilmacud kicking and screaming to the final at times in their campaign. Like I recall Shane Cunningham and Darren Mullen hitting the lights out in the Leinster Championship, and they did so again today, 4 points between them. Like that was outstanding scoring rate for them. But yeah, the first half was very, very poor. They hit 7 wides overall. They had a 50% shot conversion rate in the entire game. Well, to be honest, Glen at 58%, so that's not much better. It probably just epitomises the quality of the game in general. It wasn't great. But the main thing was for Kilmacud, they got over the line for the first time since 2009, and yeah, that was the main thing about this Kilmacud team, and it was the team throughout the championship when you think about it. Even against the Fina, they didn't play well in the Dublin final. They still won the game. Against Naas, at times, Naas had them on the ropes and still won the game. The semi-final, they didn't play well against Kieran's O'Reilly, still won it. So that was the team for Kilmacud, and they carried that on to today.
Yeah, and you look at the performances of Darren Mullen and Shane Cunningham. Like, I think if this was for any other county, I think Craig Diaz, you put him in the same conversation. Multiple Kilmacud Crokes players, but in particular, I look at Darren Mullen. I mean, his performances for Kilmacud Crokes have been nothing short of sensational, really. Like, his performance today was unbelievable. I mean, he kicked 2 points, but he was setting up scores. He was tracking back defending. He was playing as an extra man in midfield. Like, surely Desi has to bring him into the Dublin panel. I understand if he doesn't start because there's a lot of very good Dublin players, but surely he, has a claim to come into the panel. Like, to be honest with you, given his form and everything else, like, fair enough, there might be a bit of a break now for him over the next couple of weeks, and he won't be rushed into things. But, like, if Scully isn't fit and available, I'd start him because I think he's the perfect man to do that role.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Like another Kilmacud player, I'm thinking that has to make it on the Dublin squad. I've been seeing it for years and years on your channel now. Dan O'Brien, how he hasn't actually got picked on the starting at 15 for Dublin. Never mind the squad. It's unbelievable. Like even his point today when Kilmacud bat, they needed it. it was superb. Like, when you look at Dublin's defenders, if they add Dan O'Brien to the equation, you have John Small, who I think is one of the best centre backs in the country. You have James McCarthy, whose experience is vital. Lee Gannon there as well, who's superb. Mick Fitzsimons is still, still around the panel as well. Look, the defence will be even much stronger then if you add Dan O'Brien to the panel, and especially with Johnny Cooper gone, it's a no-brainer. He has to be on the panel. Darren Mullen as well. Shane Cunningham could be a dark horse. Craig Diaz, but you have to argue he's probably nearing his 30s now, if he's not 30. So, I think the ship is sailed there. Paul Mannion probably has to start next week as well. So there's a lot of Kilmacud players that would definitely be up for being selected on the Dublin squad. But for me, I know Darren Mullins performed excellent throughout the club campaign, and especially today, his tracking back, his scoring rates was absolutely incredible. But for me, if there's any Kilmacud player to break on the Dublin team, it has to be Dan O'Brien, because of Johnny Cooper's retirement, and basically because Dublin badly need a very good defender like him.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And I think when you look at Mick Fitzsimons as well, who's been a fantastic servant for Dublin down the years, but he's been playing since 2011, 2012. He's probably only got, realistically, I'd say 2 years max left at, playing senior intercounty level football before he leaves. Possibly even sooner. Maybe he might stay on longer. I don't really know, but I think there is change there with that defensive line, with James McCarthy maybe getting older as well. So there definitely is changes coming, and bringing in someone like a Dan O'Brien, Theo Clancy, I think would add a lot of solidity, hopefully, to that Dublin defence. Yupala says, can't wait for the league. Me too. Diaz struggled to get on the score sheet. A lot of missed shots. And would Kilmacud be good enough to beat a lower tier side like London or Wexford? Yeah. It's. I mean, obviously Kilmacud Crokes are a huge club. They probably actually have more members and more resources than probably the vast majority of counties. I think there's more members playing for Kilmacud Crokes than there is, I think, in the entirety of Leitrim, the Leitrim Club Championship or something of that nature. So they probably would, but it shouldn't. They probably should, to be honest, when you look at what they have. Looking at it from a Watty Graham's Glen perspective, obviously a lot of disappointment from them, finishing with 1-9. I mean, they started so strong though. They hit 1-3 early on in the opening 14 minutes. Danny Talon got that early goal, and we were mentioning how good Kilmacud Crokes have been defensively. And I was saying this to Shea Brady during the week as well, in terms of they haven't conceded a goal since they played Thomas Davis in the Dublin Club semi-finals. So for Watty Graham's Glen to get that start, massive disappointment in the end that they couldn't see it through.
Yeah, exactly. I mentioned the scoring rates in the first half as well. Watty Graham's Glen seemed to be kicking them over the bar from all angles. I think I'm checking now, but I think they only had one wide in the whole of the first half, which was incredible stats there. They were incredible in that first half. I think they had only one shot as well. Yeah, they had 6 shots and they converted 4 in the first half, compared to Kilmacud converting 5 out of 12. So it probably just showed Watty Graham's Glen, when they got the ball, when they got it up to the forwards, they were delivering, and they were absolutely incredible in the first half. The problem was the kickouts for them in the first half, and I think honestly killed them once Kilmacud had the plan then at the end of the first half to push up with them, and then Conor Glass for some reason wasn't winning them. I don't know, that was, again, we were talking about uncharacteristic performances from Shane Walsh and Paul Mannion. It was kind of an uncharacteristic performance for Conor Glass as well. I know that's very harsh. He's had an outstanding 2022, probably one of the best 2022s, other than the man himself, David Clifford from Kerry. But today, I don't think he was that good, in all honesty. I thought he fumbled the ball a lot. I thought he was very bad in the kick out, and Craig Diaz dealt with him very, very well in midfield. And yeah, they weren't great in that department, but shooting wise, I thought they were absolutely superb in that first half. And then in the second half, it seemed to really, really die off. They hit five chances gone away. I think they had one miss from Stevie O'Hara, that chance in front of the goal. He has to get something out of that. Conor Glass having one saved. They had 2 other wides as well, and they had the one at the end as well, which just drifted wide. So Like they had a load of chances missed in the second half, and ultimately that was the difference. It will be a learning curve when you look at the trajectory. Actually, Kilcoo before their All Ireland final last year, they were the last All Ireland final and lost it. Kilmacud were in the same situation today, and they won today as well. Like if that trajectory keeps on going, Glen could win the All Ireland next season, and it's not among the realms of possibility. Like they're an outstanding side, and definitely they'll learn from their experiences from this. But yeah, they will rue the chances today, the chances missed, and the fact they didn't get their kick out sorted sooner.
Yeah, Connor Glass was off it today. Still had a great year. He's due his credits. Yeah, like he's had a phenomenal year, and I mean, what a story that would have been if he puts that opportunity in the back of the net, as you said. Like he didn't have his best game by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's had an unbelievable year. He's had a very long year as well. When you think of how far Derry went in the championship, the tough games that they've played. Like there's a lot of mileage on those legs there, but. Yeah, like I mean, like in terms of those missed chances, obviously they missed a couple of chances with Stevie O'Hara, Connor Glass. Like, do you think that's the main reason where it went wrong for Watty Graham's Glen, or do you think there was anything else maybe they should have focused on that might have maybe contributed to getting them this All Ireland win?
I think it was honestly the missed chances at the end. When you look at the chances overall, Kilmacud actually had more chances, 7 more chances than Watty Graham's Glen. So the key aspect for them was they lost by 2 points, so they at least had to put one of them chances away, or even Stevie O'Hara, that situation. I think they were level at that point. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong now, but if they were level at that point, the option they were 1 point down to make it level at that point, put it over the bar, make it a level game, and then contest the kick out. It's just that game management, and Kilmacud had that today because they had the experience of losing the final last year against Kilcoo, and Watty Graham's Glen just didn't today. I thought they were outstanding throughout the club campaign. They were brilliant in the semi-final against Mike Cullen. They were outstanding against Kilcoo. They play an effective style of football. I'll say I'm not saying it's not enjoyable or anything. It's not probably great on the eye for people up and down the country, but it's very, very effective, and they definitely played it to a T up until today. But it was just their game management against a more experienced side, and that probably just cost them in the end today. And yeah, I think in this situation next season, if Glen were to get to the All Ireland final, of course, I think they'll win it because they'll have the experience of losing this season, like Kilmacud last season, like Kilcoo the year before, and like other great teams as well. You have to lose a final before you can go on and eventually win one. So Glen will take advice from the likes of Kilcoo, the likes of Kilmacud, and take it into next year again. But yeah, Ulster's going to be very, very tough again next year to get out of. You look at Kilcoo, will be right back at it. Errigal Kieran have good young players coming through. There's a few Ballybay, Pierce brothers are pretty good across again. Yeah, there's a very, very good sides up and down Ulster. So yeah, it's going to be very tough again to get out of. But if Kilcoo can win 2 in a row, why can't Watty Graham's Glen?
Yeah, and I suppose last question on this game. I mean, Kilmacud Crokes were within inches of winning the All Ireland last year. They've won the All Ireland unless it does get replayed. Even if it does get replayed, I think they'll still be favourites, and they could easily possibly go and win it again. But provided anyway, they are the champions, and that is what happens, or whatever goes from there. I mean, like as I was saying there, they're in the final last year. They had the pull of getting Shane Walsh into their team. They've huge resources, huge club members. Could they possibly go on and dominate a bit, and maybe possibly even win another few All Irelands in the next couple of years?
I think the advantage they actually have is Leinster is so weak. Like, no disrespect to the other Leinster counties, I just think, like, when you look at Ratholt and the Downs was a very good semi-final to watch. It was very entertaining. But when you look at the quality there, it wasn't there, unfortunately. You look at Port Arlington, we thought they'd put up a really good challenge. Naas as well, and Naas lost by 9 points. Port Arlington only scored, I think, 2 points for play, 4 points overall in the game against Kilmacud, and they just weren't good enough. Like, the Downs weren't good enough in the first half either. So I think that will be to Kilmacud's advantage. I think the main objective for Kilmacud is to get past Dublin next season. Na Fianna will be out for blood next year. like Ballymun Kickham's, like you look at their players in the panel, there has to be a kick in that panel when you look at the names rolling off the sheet there. Ballyboat and St. Enda's, like they've done well in the club championship over the last few seasons. You would think there's a kick in them. So Whitehall, Colmkill, why not as well? So I think the main thing is to get out of Dublin next year. And if they get out of Dublin, they'd probably be favourites for the All Ireland again because Leinster is just so easy. It's almost like the Dublin side, once they get out of it, then they're going to win it again. Because I just don't think there's the quality in Leinster anymore. You know, it's gone from inter-county and it's filtered into club as well. So I don't think it's there. When you look at the other provinces, Mike Cullen could be a shout in the next year. I think they have very good players in the panel. I think Westport, like Lee Keegan, has all the eggs in the basket now for club. Maybe Westport could make a push at it. Kilmacud will be back again. Ergal Kieran, Crossmaglen Rangers. And in Munster, I think the only club that's capable of winning the All-Ireland, in my honest opinion, for Munster is St. Finbarrs. So, look, when you look at the clubs out there, I think the main ones to get past are probably going to be Mike Cullen or any side up in Ulster for Kilmacud. If they get past them or any side in Dublin, I think anything's possible for them.
Yeah, no, it definitely will be interesting nonetheless. We'll move on to the club hurling final then. It was Ballyhale Shamrocks 122, Dunloy 115, a 7-point victory in the end for Ballyhale Shamrocks. Maybe in a similar fashion to Kilmacud Crokes, like they were favourites. They were certainly more heavy favourites than what Kilmacud Crokes were, but they were far from convincing, really, Ballyhale Shamrocks. They were nowhere near their best, I felt. I think a lot of credit has to go to Dunloy and how they played, and you know, like they gave this game a much closer rattle than what people would have expected. But it was a 7-point victory in the end for Ballyhale Shamrocks. And really in those final 10 minutes, that was really when Ballyhale put the sword down and in the end got the job done.
Yeah, it was competitive at a point. Yeah, it was very, very competitive. When you look at Ballyhale Shamrocks, they were very sloppy. 10 wide overall, 41 shots, 23 scores. Like, that wasn't really good enough to win an All-Ireland final. And Dunloy only had 3 wides to their credit. Like, in the first half, I found with Dunloy, as an underdog should, in so many games, like we're saying this about Leinster counties against Dublin, so many times we're mentioning the Leinster counties. If they just put easy shots over the bar, they could be within a whisker of Dublin. And when you look at Dunloy today, 3 wide overall, and in the first half, every shot they took seemed to go over the bar. It was incredible, really, an incredible attacking performance from Dunloy. Coney was brilliant on frees. Rowan Malloy scored an outstanding goal. Paul Shields, Owen Quinn's point as well was a bit of quality from cornerback. So credit to Dunloy, absolute credit. They were brilliant today. I didn't expect them to be as close as they were to Ballyhale. I think 7 points is a bit flattering. I think Ballyhale weren't that much ahead of Dunloy. Dunloy really covered themselves in glory, but one player we have to talk about is Owen Cody. 1-5 in play. And I mentioned on Twitter today, is he a bit underrated? I know someone was mentioning in the comments of that tweet that he's won 2 Young Players of the Year, but I'm taking it from the context. He should be up there with the likes of Aaron Gallan, TJ Reid, all them great players, Tony Kelly, all them great players in the country, because he's been doing it year in, year out. His scoring record for play particularly is incredible. It's unmatched. It's really, really good. 1-5 from play today, 1-3 in the first half. That goal that he got was absolutely crucial as well. TJ was brilliant for frees. The shot he got from play was superb, out of this world. Very good point from near the sideline. Colin Finley stood up when counted. Evan Shefflin stood up as well. Darragh Corcoran, Brian Cody coming off the bench after a long layoff as well. So Ballyhale, it was a bit like Kilmacud in the sense as well that Ballyhale had the subs coming off the bench and Dunloy just didn't have the squad. And that was a main difference as well today. But yeah, Ballyhale, what a club they are. 9 All-Ireland titles for a so-called small club in Kilkenny. Like, it probably just shows you a Crossroads can be successful in the All-Ireland club scene.
Yeah, like, and do you think a case like for Owen Cody, do you think it even is maybe as well that obviously when he's playing for Kilkenny, you've got TJ Reid there in the background who sort of everyone looks at as the main man, and it's probably similar with Ballyhale Shamrocks as well. And you think of the amount of legendary hurlers that have played for Kilkenny down the years, the likes of TJ Reid, Henry Shefflin, DJ Carey, Richie Power. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And Owen Cody playing for Kilkenny and playing for Ballyhale Shamrocks, probably getting compared with those players a lot of the time, when actually he's his own type of player. And he's even proven now time and time again that he can do it consistently. So it's probably a case of a lot of people are comparing him to those legends of the game when he is still very young as well.
Yeah, exactly. But when you look at his scoring record, he has to be compared to the legends of the game. And even Aaron Gallan, Tony Kelly, even the players now. Like, I hear some people thinking that most of the Cork team is better than Owen Cody. And I'm thinking, why? Seriously, what have they done that Owen Cody hasn't done? He scored 1-5 in an All-Ireland final today. And when you look at his scores for play, they're incredible. And there is an argument, yes, TJ's in the team, and rightly so, TJ has brought the levels so high. His scores today for play, particularly, was one of the scores of the year already in 2023. It was absolutely superb. Like, the way it just looked so effortless at times as well. I agree to the extent, like, Owen Cody has to compete with that. But even when TJ is performing so well, Owen Cody's still putting up unbelievable scores on the board as well. And that just shows you what a good player he is and why he's so underrated to the general population in the hurling community. In terms of ranking where he is, in terms of where he is in the best player in the country, I would think Tony Kenny is number one. Would you even put him? I'd probably put TJ number 2, and I'd probably put maybe Sean Finn number 3 and him number 4. But I think Owen Cody would be definitely way up there. He'd definitely be up there with the likes of Sean Finn and TJ Reid and Tony Kelly, most definitely. But I just don't think people give him the credit that he deserves, really. I think he's an outstanding hurler, and he scored 1-5 today for a reason. Unbelievable score. Even the score in the second half, when Ballyhale were struggling and Dunloy were slowly creeping back into the game, he gets the ball on the sideline and then he whacks it over the bar effortlessly. You know, it's an incredible skill, incredible temperament for the lad, as well as you have to remember, like, people talk about David Clifford being generational football. Owen Cody's nearly the same age, and he's putting up ridiculous scores for Kilkenny and Ballyhale Shamrock. So I'm just wondering why he's not talked in an unbelievable ilk in the intercounty game by many people.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, it's maybe because, like, in terms of his highlights package, maybe, like, from when I've watched him, I think he is a skillful hurler, but maybe, like, his highlights reel won't look like a Gerard Hegarty or, as you said, a David Clifford in football. You know, and it is an interesting one. He probably just doesn't quite get the credit he deserves. But Jack says Ballyhale played okay. Dunloy were good, but never looked like losing. Yeah, like, I think Ballyhale really didn't need to get out third gear. Like, they were in cruise control really throughout the game. And even if they didn't have that late surge, I think they still would have just about managed to get over the line, to be fair. But we were saying there about, or you were saying there about Ballyhale winning 9 All-Irelands, I think it is now. They've obviously won 3 in the last 4 years, or 3 of the last 4 All-Irelands that were available. They narrowly lost the All-Ireland final to Ballygunner last year. Do they go down as one of the greatest club teams of all time, greatest club hurling team of all time, or do they need maybe another All-Ireland to cement that?
I think in terms of where Ballyhale has come from, I think you have to rank them as one of the best club sides of all time. Definitely, like Corfin. I'm not sure about Corfin now. Correct me, Galway fans, if I'm wrong about this, but Corfin have a pretty big pool. Kilmacud definitely have a big pool. In Dublin, Vincent's have a big pool. Ballyhale Shamrocks is basically a crossroads, you know, and to win 9 All-Ireland titles, it's incredible, really. And you just have to wonder, how are they coming up with these amazing players like Owen Cody, TJ Reid, all in one generation? The likes of Joey Holden, Colin Fennelly, Paddy Mullen, Adrian Mullen, who wasn't even playing today. You know, Adrian, like, we forgot to mention Adrian Mullen. What an unbelievable player he is. Like, they have outstanding players all over the team. And personally, like, I think Corfin's achievements is definitely up there because football's a harder sport and hurling in terms of, inclusivity and all that. I think all 32 counties play football, and then hurling there's only a select few, so there's that argument as well. But in terms of where Ballyhale has come from, the small club that so many people say they are, I think they have to be ranked. Like 9 All Ireland titles, the most in history of All Ireland hurling. I mean, it's unmatched, really. It's incredible. When you look, when you compare it, actually, Ballyhale Shamrocks is the most in hurling, and that's only a crossroads. Nemo Rangers is mostly a city club in Cork, and they have the most in football, and they have a pretty large pool as well to pick from. So, like that's no comparison. So Ballyhale, I think, when you judge it by that, Ballyhale's achievements are unmatched. It's incredible the way they've risen through the ranks, the way they've won 9 All Ireland titles, and yeah, for me, in terms of starting from the bottom, Ballyhale are up there with one of the best teams of all time.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like, I think it is incredible. Like, I think there must be something in the genes there. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, what's going on there. But like, you think of even the great Henry Shefflin as well, and plenty of other players down the years that have come from that club. And as you said there, like, I mean, their team would probably beat most county sides, like up and down the country. I mean, they're that good. They have the spine of the Kilkenny side. I suppose from a Dunloy perspective, as we were saying there, like, definitely gave a great account of themselves. It's been a great year for them, getting to an All-Ireland final, beaten by 7 points in the end to a team like Ballyhale Shamrocks, who we've literally just said could very well be the greatest club team of all time. So, I mean, Dunloy, they can go home with their heads held high.
Absolutely, yeah. They've done everybody proud up in Antrim, even at the whole county. I think they've been absolutely incredible all season. Like, to beat St Thomas's in the semi-final was brilliant. To beat Schlockneil was very good as well up in Ulster. To give the account of themselves today, like I mentioned as well, with so many Leinster sides with Dublin or Cork with Kerry or Tipperary with Kerry and Munster in football particularly. What frustrates me about the underdog is so many wides they have, and they're so inaccurate in their shooting. You're thinking, if they just put them points over the bar, they could be within a whisker. But when you look at Dunloy today, every shot they took, it was going over the bar effortlessly. It was incredible to see that from Dunloy. Only 3 wides today. They definitely covered themselves brilliantly today. Like Keelan Malloy, excellent as well. Conal Cunning, and there's a few of them players that could be putting their hands up to Darren Gleeson for Antrim, I think. They look a very good outfit, look very good as a United group as well. And yeah, very good performance from Dunloy to put it up to Ballyhale. Incredible, really. So yeah, huge credit to Dunloy, and what a memorable year for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, I think to beat St Thomas in the semi-finals and obviously getting that win versus Slot-Neil as well, and as you said, like, their performance in this final was very, very good against this Ballyhale side. Like, they definitely ran them quite close, and a lot closer than people expected. I suppose we'll run through maybe just some pre-season talking points really from like the past week or so, and I'll just kind of go through really the results from the 4 pre-season competitions that are in each province. So Cork are obviously champions of their pre-season competition. They won 19 points to 2-7 against Limerick. Mayo are Connacht FBD champions. They beat Roscommon 13 points to 9. Longford are O'Byrne Cup champions. They're 3-13. They won 3-13 to Louds, 12 points. And Derry are McKenna Cup champions. They won 3-11 to Tyrone, 1-5. So I suppose we'll look, I don't want to focus too much maybe on the games as such or whatever, but maybe from your own perspective, from a Cork fan, very happy with how your side has looked in pre-season. I mean, a big result over Kerry as well, which I suppose doesn't go unnoticed.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to get a win over Kerry, really. After they hammered us by 22 points, I think it was, in 2021. It was just nice to get a win over them. But at the same time, I know a lot of people are saying, a lot of people on social media, I think when you look at the past few seasons, this is the only time that people have hyped up Cork so highly. Like, even James O'Donoghue, who on the football pod during the week, was saying he's his team to go up other than Dublin in Division 2. And I'm just like, okay, we've performed well against Limerick. We went to Clare, won in Spanish Point, brilliant. We hammered Kerry, absolutely superb, brilliant. But just taking one game at a time, I'm thinking. Meath is the focus next week. If we lose that, all the work's gone down the drain from the start of the season. I think the signs are good. Kevin Walsh, I've watched Cork now for 3 games in a row, and I'm impressed with what he's done. with this team, with his defensive plan. Like Cork usually just sit back, and then once they get the ball, they break. Brian Hurley is excellent to track it back, and you never thought that would happen. Stephen Sherlock has been brilliant to track it back as well as scoring. And there's a lot of numbers around the team as well, like Colm O'Connell, Lenny Maguire forming a telepathic partnership in midfield, which is brilliant. Daniel O'Mahony, superb. Sean Meehan. Look, we have a good base there, but I suppose the Limerick game, the 2 goals in particular, like they were sloppy. And I was thinking, if we're going to concede them chances of Jordan Morris or Matthew Costello next week, we're going to get destroyed in the back line. So we have to be mindful of that as well. But look, the focus, the 100% focus now. I know we won the McGrath Cup. It is a nice competition to win, and yeah, we'll set us well up for the season. But the main focus now was the first 3 games of the league. We have Meath in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, which we have to win. There's no other result acceptable. We have to beat Meath in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Kildare, Newbridge, I think, put up a good performance there. Maybe try and sneak a win there. Dublin, get a performance out of that in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. That's all you can ask for this team in the first 3 games. But if we lose to Meath next week, all that work at the McGrath Cup will be gone. So the players and fans as well have to be mindful of that, you know.
Yeah, like I think, yeah, you can never read too much into these preseason competitions, because even Kerry, for example, I mean, they're nowhere near their best side available. Like a lot of those players probably won't play too much in the league, to be perfectly honest. Not to take anything away from the victory. I think the way you beat them, you know, looks very good for Cork, but I think at the same time you can't be reading too far ahead and start putting Cork ahead of the likes of Derry and even Kildare as well. I think it's just a little bit premature considering the progress that those 2 counties made last season. And looking at some other results there as well, like obviously Derry, like that was a huge result for them against Tyrone. Like I did see a lot of Tyrone fans on social media not very happy with their team's performance. But from a Derry perspective, I mean, considering they did have a lot of players away with club commitments, with Watty Graham's Glen, the fact they put out a score like that, I mean, that is some statement.
It is, yeah, and not many people, I feel anyway, looking on social media, etc., not many people are talking about Derry as contenders for Ulster this year, or contenders to go up with Dublin. Most people are actually talking about Cork, funnily enough, to go up with Dublin. I'm thinking, hold on a minute, Derry just hammered Tyrone without Conor Glass and Emmett Brackley, you know, and those are 2 incredible midfielders, and you still hammer the likes of Tyrone. Like, touching on Tyrone is small, but I know they mentioned on the football pod last week, Paddy Andrews said that Tyrone are the team to watch, but it's going to be an interesting year now for them. Like Paul Donaghy stepped away, Tiernan McCann stepped away, and there seemed to be a bit of positivity growing, and then the result happens on Saturday. I personally didn't watch the game now, but there was some Tyrone fans going on about it as if it was the end of the world or something, and you know, it was incredibly bad. But the positive is they're playing Roscommon next week, and I think that's a win there in Division 1. I don't think Roscommon are really a Division 1 side. Look, I think they struggled to beat Sligo in the FBD game, and against Mayo, they didn't really lay a glove on them in some parts of the game. So I think Tyrone that's a game they have to target and go on and win that game. So it'll be interesting about Tyrone. They're on the same side as Monaghan and Derry in the Ulster Championship. I was really looking at the draws now last night. It's going to be very interesting. Like if Tyrone meet Derry in the semi-final and repeat of this McKenna Cup game and obviously the Ulster game last year, the last thing Tyrone will need is a 3rd defeat in a row against Derry, you know, and that would be disastrous for this Tyrone team. After winning it straight away after winning the All-Ireland, to lose 3 times. I know Derry have progressed miraculously over the last few seasons, but if Tyrone were to lose to them 3 times in a row, it would be almost a disaster for them. So you have to, you know, they have to take that in consideration as well. As for the other ones as well, Mayo, like Mayo are going to be very interesting this year. Like there's Oisin Mullen stepping away, Lee Keegan, who are arguably their 2 best players over the last few years as well. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting year for Mayo. How will they adapt? I think they have the right man in charge of Kevin McStay. I think he knows Mayo football inside and out. I think he's the ideal manager for them. So yeah, good win for Mayo there. Excellent win for Derry, obviously, and for Longford as well. Like, not many people are talking about, like, a lot of people are talking about Cork's win, Derry's win, Mayo's win. Not many people are talking about Longford's win, and the fact they drew against Meath as well. Like, this Longford team, I think, could be a dark horse hit this year in Division 3. By the looks of them in pre-season, I know a lot of people are thinking, and it's pre-season, we shouldn't be reading too much into it. But when you look at their opponents in Division 3, Cavan, I think, are missing a few players for injury. Westmeath might be a bit overhyped with the Tailteann Cup win. Down look good. I will give them that. Down look very good. Fermanagh look to be struggling. Tipperary look to be struggling. Antrim. So I think there are teams there that Longford could beat. And Paddy Christie in charge there as well. Anything can happen there. And I looked at the Leinster draw as well. Longford are on the opposite side of Kildare and Dublin. So could they get to a Leinster final? That could be a sharp bet there for Longford fans. Like, it would be miraculous if they reached the Leinster final. And I think, look at their performances in pre-season and the fact they have Paddy Christie in. Like, it's definitely an attainable objective for them.
Yeah, no, like I think they've been very, very impressive in pre-season, and it's not like they've just been winning games. Like, they've been putting huge scores past team as well. Like, I think they absolutely trashed Laois, I think it was, as well, in one of their games. So they've looked very good. Jack says has all of our Mullinachta players in, lots of forward options. So look, that's great to hear. Like, it looks like Paddy has got a lot of the boy, and he also says here Desi Reynolds, some player, McGivney's, Rian Brady's obviously back in as well, and others. So, like, he's getting a full buy-in. Players are buying in, and that's great to see.
It is, yeah, and even like Longford play some nice stuff, and even look like Rian Brady coming back. Desi Reynolds scoring 3-3 yesterday, which was an incredible scoring return in a O'Byrne Cup final. All different play as well, which goes under the radar, was outstanding. And when you look at Longford's young players as well, Joseph Hagan, Jack Duggan are two particular players which I'm going to keep an eye out for this year, because Jack Duggan was one of the top scorers in the Under-20 All-Ireland Championship last season. Joseph Hagan was one of the top scorers in the Sigerson Cup last season. So you have two of them going into the panel, Henry and Brady, and more to come as well. That's going to be brilliant for Longford. Desi Reynolds scoring 3-3 as well. Darren Gallagher from midfield is another exceptional player. Mickey Quinn is still staying around as well. So Longford, actually, for a small county, Longford have some very nice footballers. They have very good players. So I think they'd probably be worth taking a punt on, I think, to get to an Leinster final at least. And if they get to an Leinster final, like, they'd go into an All-Ireland series for Longford. Well, there is the argument as well. I think Tommy Rooney was mentioning off the ball. The same with Sligo. I think Sligo are another team as well. There's the argument that if they reach the provincial finals, they won't get the opportunity of a Tailteann Cup run. And if Longford were into the Tailteann Cup, then could there be an objective to win the whole thing? And I think it's, again, like, I don't know which would you rather as a Longford fan. I'm actually wondering, get to a Leinster final against Dublin in Croke Park in front of a big enough crowd, or win the Tailteann Cup. I think Longford fans would actually rather win the Tailteann Cup now, thinking about it, rethinking it. So, yeah, it should be an interesting year for Longford.
Yeah, maybe Jack, if he's still watching there, can answer that, and he has actually said Tailteann Cup. So there you go. Because getting to a Leinster final, like, if you're playing Dublin, you're probably going to get beat by 9-10 points anyway. Realistically, like, that's really sort of at a minimum. But yeah. Question for Matthew: what's Cork's best full forward line in football and hurling? Maybe if you want to answer that quickly.
Well, football, obviously, it's Carl O'Mahony, Stephen Sherlock, and Brian Hurley. That doesn't need an explanation. For hurling, in my opinion, look at pre-season, I think Jack O'Connor scored a crucial goal against Tipperary in the Munster Senior Hurling League today, so I think he'll go in corner forward. I think Shane Kingston, and I think Alan Connolly. I think that's probably the best forward line that Cork put in hurling. So, yeah, it should be an interesting year for both the footballers and hurlers, and can't wait for the new season.
Yeah, I suppose we'll maybe touch on some Sigerson Cup that's been happening the last week as well. So this was the draw for round 2. Now, some of these games obviously these games were fixed to play during the week. A lot of them did get cancelled due to the weather, obviously, up and down the country. So in terms of some results, University of Galway beat UCD 2-11 to 1-6, and MTU Cork got the victory against Maynooth University 3-14 to 2-11, and St. Mary's beat ATU Sligo 110 to 1-6. I suppose looking at all the teams there and looking at the teams available, I mean, who do you think are the favourites?
I think the obvious answer is DCU are. Like I actually thought this at the start, and then looking at their 2 results so far, it was unfortunate the Queen's game. I was going to do stats on it, I was going to watch it, but then it ended up in the same day as Limerick and Cork after getting moved. It was supposed to be Tuesday, then it was supposed to be Wednesday, and then Thursday. And yeah, it was a bit of a mess this week. It was a really broken week of Sigerson Cup action. There was a game on this morning as well. I'm actually not sure the result. I think Ulster University beat ATU Galway as well, or ATU Donegal this morning. So yeah, they're through as well to round 3. So yeah, I think DCU, when you look at their forward line, Larkin O'Dell from Dublin, Robert Finnerty from Galway, Conor Corbett from Cork, to have them 3 in their college, oh my God, it's incredible. I'd be questioning actually, why did Conor Corbett go up to DCU? You know, all the way from Cork. That's bit of a trick, but anyway, like, and even Robert Finnerty, how did he get from Galway to Dublin? You know, but yeah, I suppose them players can only answer that question. But yeah, some very good performance, especially from the top scorer so far. And I know him personally, Ryan O'Donovan. He scored 10 points in the first game, and he scored 10 points in the second game for MTU Cork. So very good performance from him, and he's putting West Cork on the map brilliantly in that competition as well. But overall, I'd have to back DCU to win it. When you look at their entire squad, and there's Jonas as well to do it for their former colleague who passed away last year, Red Oak Murphy, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like University of Galway, like they obviously put up a big result against UCD, and I've seen Tom O'Callaghan has been shooting the lights out for them obviously in the last couple of weeks. So I mean, you can't look past them as well. Like they obviously got that big victory over UL last season. So I mean, you can't rule them out either.
You can't, no. Like when you look at the University of Galway, they mostly the Galway youngsters, Tom O'Callaghan and Matthew Tierney are all in the same team. Cathal Sweeney, I think, has scored 2-1 in the championship so far, which is incredible return. So they'll definitely be up there. I think DCU actually has a stronger panel. I think that'll probably be the final, University of Galway against DCU. It's actually interesting how the sides have actually progressed from the semi-final. One of the semi-finals from last year, MTU Kerry, are now relegated to the Trench Cup. You know, and how quickly can a team's fortunes change in the space of a year? It's incredible. UL, last year's finalists, on the other hand, I think they'll struggle this year. They're without David Clifford and Sean Powter, 2 of their main players last year, who dragged them kicking and screaming to the final. So I think they look like they're bound to struggle this season. Unfortunately, I think they have nice players, but I think they'll struggle. Ulster University is another one, Aaron. I think they have very good players on paper. They look incredible. So even last year, they looked incredible on paper, but they don't seem to translate on the pitch. I know they won today against ATU Donegal, a very good, crucial win today. But you have to feel they have to be getting into quarterfinals, semi-finals with this group of players. You look at Conor Cushion there, Dara Canavan, Andrew Gilmore. I mean, they're incredible footballers. Owen Lynch in goal. You know, Finn McElroy as well. Very good players all over the field. So, yeah, I think when you look at strongest squads, you'd have to go Ulster University, University of Galway, DCU, maybe UCD as well. I think Darragh Craig from Roscommon is absolutely outstanding for them as well. Cathal Feely, I think, plays from Roscommon. Darragh McAlarney from Monaghan. David Garden from Monaghan. So they have very good players. An interesting one, actually, another Dublin college, TUD. They've won 2 games out of 2 so far. Yeah. And they don't seem to have stand-up players as such. Like Mark Lavin is a good player from Dublin, I'm hearing. So, yeah, it should be interesting to see how they progress. They've probably been one of the best performers without having some stand-up players, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it should be a very interesting competition. But I think the winners will probably come out of either DCU, University of Galway, or possibly Ulster University if they get their performance levels up.
Yeah, and like TU Dublin actually beat UL on penalties as well a couple of days ago. So that was obviously a massive result for TU Dublin. And they are my college as well, the college I went to. So I'll certainly be supporting them in whatever way I can and flying the colours for the lads. Hopefully we can get the results against DCU and everything else. But yeah, as you were saying there, like definitely performance-wise, really, really good performances. Again, as you said, like not too many players I'd be familiar with, but at the same time, looking very, very good and definitely caused 1 or 2 shocks. But ultimately then your pick is going to be DCU?
Yeah, it has to be. Like, when you look at the players on the panel, you look at Paddy Christie. We mentioned Paddy Christie with Longford. He's managing DCU as well. Like, he's
Yeah,
incredible manager, and probably even this early on in the year is probably up for manager of the year. So yeah, I'd have to go DCU to win it. And just before we finish up, I suppose I'd like to mention I am a UL. Well, I'm an Erasmus at the moment, but I am currently a UL student, so I'll be up for UL. I don't think they'll win it, but I was hoping they'd win it last year. They didn't. Hopefully, the local shine on the boys from Limerick this year and they win it. But yeah, ultimately it has to be DCU.
yeah, no, I would agree. I think it's between DCU and University of Galway. I think they by far have the better panels and better squads. But again, you never quite know in Sigerson Cup. Sometimes it's you're putting a lot of different panels together, and you just don't know. There's always surprises and shocks and everything else. I suppose before we finish up, maybe we'll have club moment of the week. But another thing, maybe I might ask you, what was your club moment of the club championship season? It's obviously a tough one.
Yeah. Oh, that's. Oh, you know what? Because he made that interview on the Late Late Show and Ryan Tubridy made him look like a ridiculous interview. I'm just going to give it because out of sympathy. Really, I'm going to go Lee Keegan winning the Mayo Club title with Westport. I thought that was an incredible moment for me, and yeah, him retiring this week or a few weeks ago as well. Like, it was an incredible ending to a brilliant career for Lee Keegan. So yeah, that'll be my moment of the year. Westport win the Mayo title for the first time ever.
Yeah, no, it's hard to look past that. Really, I mean, you could look at Dunloyd reaching an All-Ireland final. I think that's probably ranks maybe as one of the moments of the year. You think back to Colm Lavin's point, obviously, for Strokestown, which won the Roscommon football title. Trying to think of other ones kind of off the top of my head, but plenty of, Ballybay putting up that big win, obviously, against Crossmaglen Rangers was another sort of big result. Eric O'Kieran getting over the line in Tyrone. I mean, you could really go through all sort of county championships. Even Conor Ferris' save today, I think, against Conor Glass. I think, if that does go on to be the winner and there is no replay or anything like that, then you could arguably even look at a moment like that. Definitely moment of the week, anyways.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm trying to think of get a Cork spin on it, as I usually do. I'm trying to think of a Cork moment. I suppose it would have to be down in the Premier Intermediate Championship, that Colin Casey goal at the end of it. At the end of an incredible double bill between Inniscar and Castlemartyr. I think that was definitely up there for moment of the year. I suppose if you're looking for controversy of the year, I suppose it was the junior final last week. If anybody watched the game, that was definitely up there. The Paddy Clifford speech as well was definitely up there. So yeah, there was a load of moments, a load of controversies, a load of special moments. So yeah, another club season over, and the inter-county season is beginning next week. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, and Nirvana says, great channel, man. Very much appreciate it. Thank you. Westmeath, Cavan prediction. I'd go with Westmeath at this moment in time, but I'm sure there will be a preview out at some point during the week. Jack says Kerry Junior final. Clifford equaliser was sensational. They were going to lose and swings it over. No bother versus Lister. Yeah, like some of his late scores and even that junior football final as well. I mean, that was a mental final with 6 red cards. And I mean, Paddy Clifford's interview, obviously, well, not an interview, a speech, obviously, with the trophy. And yeah, like that whole final you can nearly look at as just a mad sort of bizarre club game of the year, I guess.
Yeah. I suppose he was saying he should have been sent off, but I know Paddy Clifford has played outstanding in the year and all that, but come on, it looked like an eye gouged now. Like that was pretty clear cut red card, and yeah, he questions the referee. I'm not really a fan of that, but yeah, the challenge on him, I suppose, would have given. I think yeah, someone was mentioning anyway last week. He was kind of half concussed making that speech, so.
Yeah,
that was probably a suggestion there, but yeah, definitely that was definitely a mental moment, and as well, I suppose maybe another moment, I think, actually, Ballygiblin winning the junior title in hurling last week and then putting up a banner. This was for you, Paddy Palmer. I think that was up there with a moment of the year.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Paddy Palmer. Brilliant moment for that. So, yeah, a lot of moments to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, and that even reminds me as well to even when Kilruane McDonough's in the Tipperary hurling final, obviously where they sort of did a moment of silence and laid their helmets down in the same area of Semple Stadium where Dylan Quirk tragically passed away. So yeah, you could look at that as another sort of moment of the year as well. But yeah, look, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here. Cheers, Matthew, for coming on. And yeah, I'm sure obviously you might be starting up your own podcast maybe soon. So where can people check that out if they're looking for it?
Yeah, Spotify, YouTube. I'm actually starting to do live streams. I did a live stream on the Cork Limerick game the other day. I know it was the most boring game, really. I know Cork won it, but it was boring in quality. But I'm hoping to do a live stream now for Mayo and Galway on Saturday night as well. So if you can all tune into that on my channel, GAA Statsman, that'd be much appreciated. Follow my Instagram, GA__Statsman. Same on Twitter. And yeah, a few TikToks as well here and there. So yeah, follow all those accounts.
Brilliant. Perfect. Well, cheers for coming on. And yeah, if anyone tuning in could leave a like, subscribe, let us know what you thought of the weekend's results. And we'll speak to you all soon.